beneath the ice. In a small, isolated village on the icy coast of Alaska, there were 3 boys: Daniel, Sean, and Jared. They had grown up hearing stories of the Qalupalik, a creature that lurked beneath the frozen waters, waiting to lure unsuspecting children away. With green, rotting skin, a mass of seaweed-like hair, and a voice that could enchant any listener, the Qalupalik was a thing of nightmares. But, like most teenagers, they dismissed it as folklore, a story meant to keep the young ones from wandering too close to the shore. One chilly autumn evening, as the sky turned a deep violet, the 3 friends dared each other to walk to the edge of the village, where the land met the dark, forbidding sea. The icy wind howled around them as they approached the water's edge, the full moon casting long, twisted shadows across the snow. The boys laughed and shoved one another playfully, trying to mask their nervousness. "Come on, it's just a story," Daniel muttered. He and Sean had recently embraced a philosophy they called the red pill, a way of seeing the world they claimed made them more aware, less susceptible to outside influences. They thought of themselves as immune to tricks, lies, and illusions. But Jared wasn't so sure. He felt the cold seep into his bones as if the very air whispered warnings. "I don't know, guys," Jared said, glancing nervously at the shimmering surface of the water. "We shouldn't be here." "Stop being such a blue pill," Daniel scoffed, using the term they threw at those who still held on to fear and conformity. But Jared felt something. Something wrong. A low, humming sound began to rise from the water, sending shivers down their spines. It was soft, almost melodic, like a lullaby sung in a forgotten tongue. Daniel and Sean glanced at each other, their faces betraying a moment of uncertainty. But then they clenched their fists, shaking off the sensation. "It's just a trick," Sean said sharply, though his voice quivered. "Nothing can mess with our minds. We see through it." Yet, the melody grew louder, wrapping around them like a cold, suffocating mist. Jared's eyes widened as he looked out at the water. He could see something moving just beneath the surface. A pale, human-like figure, eyes glowing a sickly green, staring straight at him. He wanted to run, to scream, but he couldn't move. "Don't listen," Daniel yelled, shaking Jared by the shoulders. "We're stronger than this." But Jared couldn't tear his gaze away from those eyes. The Qalupalik's face emerged slowly from the water, its skin slick and glistening in the moonlight, hair draped over its shoulders like seaweed. It smiled, a horrible, toothy grin, and sang louder. The sound vibrated through Jared's skull, numbing his senses, washing away his thoughts. It was as if the song spoke directly to the parts of him that were still afraid, still uncertain, still bound by doubt and fear. I can't," Jared whispered, his voice hollow. Daniel and Sean gritted their teeth, turning away from the creature. The music clawed at their minds, but they fought back, grounding themselves in the clarity they had cultivated from the red pill. They had learned to reject the illusions of fear, to see through the manipulations of the world. But Jared had not. He hadn't built the defenses and awareness they had. "We have to go," Sean shouted, grabbing Daniel's arm. "Not without Jared," Daniel argued, but Jared was already stepping forward, entranced, his face blank and emotionless. The Qalupalik's bony hands broke the surface, reaching out to the boy. Its fingers were long, like the twisted branches of a dead tree, dripping with seawater and dark, slimy algae. Jared stepped closer, as if sleepwalking. The creature wrapped its fingers around his arms, and still, Jared did not resist. "Jared!" Daniel screamed, but the boy didn't turn, didn't even flinch. With a sudden, horrifying strength, the Qalupalik pulled Jared into the freezing water. The surface rippled violently, splashing up into the air, and then went still. Jared's face disappeared beneath the waves, his eyes wide and empty. For a moment, Daniel and Sean stood frozen, the reality of what just happened sinking in. Then, panic seized them, and they turned and ran, their hearts pounding, breaths coming in ragged gasps as they fled back to the village. But they would never forget the look in Jared's eyes. The look of someone who had been caught, who had been taken because he had never learned to see through the lies of women. When they finally reached the safety of the village, they tried to tell the elders, but no one believed them. The story was always the same. Children wandered too close to the water and disappeared, lured by the Qalupalik. It was how it had always been. But Daniel and Sean knew that it wasn't just about being near the shore. Jared had been vulnerable because he hadn't built his defenses. The Qalupalik didn't just steal bodies, it stole minds, targeting those who were still bound by their fears, their doubts, their uncertainties. From that night on, Daniel and Sean never spoke of the creature again. But every evening, as they lay in their beds, they could still hear the faint strains of that song drifting through their windows, the song that called out to them, testing their strength, waiting for the day when their resolve might waver. And one dark night, when the sea winds howled louder than ever, Daniel woke up sweating, heart racing, his mind reeling from a nightmare. Or was it a memory? A voice, deep and cold, had whispered in his ear, "Red pill or not, you're all the same under the ice."